Special forces are executing a brutal new playbook, decapitation strikes. It started by extracting Venezuela's president from his home in the middle of the night. Weeks later, a massive joint operation with Israel eliminated top Iranian commanders right under the nose of Supreme Leader Ayatollah Khamenei. Now, the world is waiting for the next target to drop, and the man at the top of that list is North Korean dictator Kim Jong-un. Kim travels in constantly shifting decoy motorcades so no one knows which car holds the leader. His bodyguards even carry specialized briefcases that instantly deploy into bulletproof shields at the first sign of gunfire. These operations target separate regimes on opposite sides of the globe. However, beyond the nuclear threats and political rhetoric, these leaders have recently adopted a specific policy that bypasses the American financial core. Kim Jong-un is parading intercontinental ballistic missiles, weapons designed to reach the U.S. mainland, when North Korea should be bankrupt from international sanctions. To pay for these weapons, North Korea deployed a shadow army of IT workers. Using forged documents and stolen identities, they secured remote engineering jobs inside top-tier American corporations. Once inside those corporate networks, they planted malware and siphoned massive amounts of cash. In a single year, this ghost workforce extracted $800 million straight out of the U.S. economy. With that illicit funding flowing in, Kim is displaying absolute confidence. He is already parading his young daughter, Ju-ae, grooming her to inherit a heavily militarized, well-funded nuclear state. Moving $800 million through high-security global banks requires more than just hacking skills. It necessitates a sovereign partner to provide the laundering infrastructure and diplomatic protection Kim needs to keep his missile program running. This diagram shows the engine of American power, the Petrodollar agreement. It mandated any nation buying oil must use U.S. dollars. But watch as we update the chart for Venezuela and Iran. They bypass the dollar entirely, routing massive oil reserves directly into China. In return, they are accepting the Chinese yuan. China is systematically replacing the U.S. dollar as the primary trade currency for sanctioned nations, buying billions in discounted oil. Every leader currently facing a decapitation strike has moved their oil exports away from the dollar. These military operations function as a last resort tool to keep the petrodollar system from fracturing. America is deploying expensive jets, bombs, and special forces to solve a macroeconomic problem. This heavy-handed response is walking directly into a trap designed by Beijing. Instead of citing the American military head-on, China is practicing asymmetric attrition. They are quietly fortifying America's loudest enemies, encouraging the U.S. to exhaust its own treasury. Take the Middle East. Right now, a 30,000-ton Chinese spy ship sits in the Gulf of Oman, silently tracking American fighter jets and carrier movements, and feeding that real-time targeting data straight to the Iranian military. That data feed strips away the technological advantage of stealth aircraft like the F-35. It ensures Iran can mount a credible defense, forcing the U.S. to keep massive, expensive military assets perpetually bogged down in the desert. Over in the Pacific, China is executing the same playbook with North Korea. Beijing secretly buys up rare metals and cheap manufactured goods, pumping cash into Kim's regime so he can keep testing missiles and keep the American Navy distracted. By financially underwriting a nuclear North Korea and a heavily defended Iran, China guarantees that American military resources remain divided, drained, and thousands of miles away from Beijing's actual objective. This chart shows the staggering financial burn rate of these proxy conflicts. The United States is pouring tens of billions of dollars into Middle Eastern security, draining the budget needed to defend the Pacific. That financial exhaustion is exactly what China wants. When the time comes to finally cross the strait and take Taiwan, an overextended American military simply will not have the funds or the focus to intervene. If the U.S. tries to retaliate by blockading global shipping lanes, China is prepared. They have preemptively hoarded 1.2 billion barrels of crude oil to survive a total embargo. Furthermore, they are rapidly transitioning their massive domestic infrastructure to run on electric vehicles. By eliminating their reliance on imported gasoline, we neutralize the leverage of the petrodollar. The math of this shadow war is clear. Every million-dollar missile America fires in the Middle East brings China one step closer to absorbing Taiwan without ever firing a shot themselves. The United States relies on the deafening roar of aircraft carriers and the sheer kinetic force of targeted assassinations to project power. But China relies on the silent, relentless control of global supply chains, energy reserves, and an expanding new trade currency. We are watching a war of two different centuries. The nation focused on kinetic force is losing its hold on global power, while the rival's silently draining its enemy's treasure.